Hi everyone, welcome back. So let's start with the second part of this Eon topic, which is all that we are. So we need to start from here. The second topic, which is the personalism always begins its analysis of reality with the people at the center of consciousness. So let's see what the first species hold for us. Bonne's idea had many predecessors, from Latin Christianity through Immanuel Kant, using many different theories and concepts about what a human being is and about the personhood of God in its relation to our own personhood. His forceful argumentations influenced James, who helped found the American philosophical tradition of pragmatism shortly after Bowney's first books were published and who drew increasingly close to personalism, as did the idealist philosopher Josiah Royce. Bowness was at the center of this troika of canonical American philosophers at the turn of the 20th century. His teachings rippled out personalist philosopher on the West Coast and though his student at Boston, notably Edgar S. Brightman and Harold DeWolf, both of whom later became the teachers of King. So first start with the difficult word's meaning. And the first word is here a pragmatism. What is pragmatism? So, pragmatism is an approach to problems and situations that is based on the practical solutions. And the second one is here. What is troika? The troika means a group of three people, especially government officials. And what is the meaning of this word canonical? It means it's related to or according to a rules, principle, or law, especially in the Christian church. So, what this passage is trying to say, firstly, get that. What this passage is trying to tell us. The Bowness idea had many predecessors, from Latin Christianity through Immanuel Kant, using many different theories and concepts about what a human being is and about the personhood of God and its relation to our own personhood. This line is basically trying to say that Bowness ideas came from the Christianity is influenced by the Immanuel Kant and many philosophers. And his idea is about the personhood of God in relation to our own personhood. How we can relate God personhood with our own personhood. His forceful argumentation influenced James, who helped found the American philosophical tradition of pragmatism shortly after the Bowness' first book were published and who drew increasingly close to personalism. So his first book influenced James, who helped the American philosophical tradition of pragmatism. And another one whose name is Josiah Royce, who increasingly close to the personalisms. Nabouni was at the center of this troika of canonical American philosopher at the turn of the 20th century. So now it's become a three people's group, which is a Bowney, James, and Josiah Royce. So he becomes the center of both of them. And his teaching rippled out through the personalist philosopher on the West Coast and through his student at Boston, notably Ezra S. Brightman and Harold DeWolf. Here one more word is rippled. What does it mean? It means a small wave or the surface of water. So basically in this line it means a spread, just like a water, the flow, how his teachings flow from the one people to another. So this whole passage is talking about how Bowney's ideas and theories influence different philosophers. So the best suitable title for this particular passage is A Bowney's idea and the teaching, how it influenced other philosophers. And what we can take from this passage. The first is theories, different theories and concepts about what human being is and about the personhood of God in its relation to our own personhood. That line we can pick from here. And the first whom he influenced, the first person is James. And how what he did, he helped found the American philosophical tradition of pragmatism. And the another one is Joshua Royce, drew increasingly close to the personalism. And the one more line we can take, that is his teaching rippled out through the personal philosopher of West Coast through his student at Boston. That's all for this passage. Let's moving toward the next passage. Many of other forms of personalisms had been developed in Europe in the previous century, theistic and non-theistic, socialist or communitarian, and libertarians, abstractly metaphysical and concretely ethical. It is more an approach to thinking than a method, doctrines, and school. Personalism always begins its analysis of reality with the person at the center of consciousness, to which it attached the most profound worth. Some versions develop this through ontology or metaphysics, some through theologies associated with the most denomination of the Arabic Abrahamic religion, and some through the insubjective and communitarian nature of human life. My own version make the structure of moral meaningfulness the first step and the first philosophy, as I will explain below. All versions seek an integrated, ethically strong comprehension of personhood as the heart of the life of humankind. So first we see the difficult words here. The first one is theistic. What it's mean? It means involving or relating to belief in a god or gods. Another one is concrete. What is the meaning of concretely? It's a clear and definite way of or in a form that can be seen or felt. And the next one is ontology. What is the meaning of ontology? It means the part of philosophy that studies what it's mean to exist. And the another its synonyms is metaphysics. What is the meaning of metaphysics? The metaphysics is a part of the philosophy that is about understanding existence and the knowledge. And another word is this Intersubjective. What it's mean of intersubjective? It means a relating to or involving the point of view of two or more people. So let's see what this passage is trying to say. Many other form of personalism had been developed in Europe in the previous century. Theistic and non-theistic, socialist or communitarians and libertarians, abstractly metaphysical and concretely ethical. So this says that in Europe there is a different form of personalism developed, which is termed as theistic, who believes in God, and then another one is non-theistic, who don't. Socialist, who just believe about the welfare of the society, and a communitarians and libertarians, statically metaphysical and concrete ethicals. So who just think about the society, about our ethics, this kind of a different personalisms develops in Europe. It is more an approach to thinking than a method, doctrine, and a school. So it is basically in short term in layman language it says that it is more on approach, which means it is more practical than theoretical. Personalism always begins its analysis of reality with the person at the center of consciousness, to which it attaches the most profound worth. So this line says that personalism always begins with analysis of reality. About it's talking about the reality with the point of view of the person's consciousness. Our consciousness, what's reality, and in what reality we need to follow, which is worth it. Some versions develop this through ontology or metaphysics, some through the theologies associated with most denomination of Abraham religion, and some through the intersubjective and communitarian nature of human life. So how does personalism developed? Is developed, there is different way it's developed. The first is metaphysics or ontology, which is about the study of the existence and the knowledge, and some through the theologies from Abraham religions, and some through the intersubjective, means the viewpoint of different peoples of different era. My own version makes the structure of moral meaningfulness the first step and the first philosophy, as I will explain below. All version 6 an integrated, ethically strong comprehension of personhood as a heart of the line of humankind. So here the King Luther Jr. saying that his own version of personhood, of philosophy of personhood, which he will explain later below. And it is completely integrated. All versions need to seek an integrated, ethical, strong comprehension of personhood as the heart of life of humankind. And it's all about how the humankind in every version seek validation from the life of humankind. So, what are suitable titles given to this passage? Suitable title for this whole passage is a different forms of personalism in Europe. And what they are, what line we should take from here? First is the theistic and non-theistic, socialist or communitarian and libertarians, abstractly metaphysical and concretely ethical. This is the most important line we can take. And another one is more an approach to thinking than a method, doctrine, or a school. And the another one, or what we can take from here, is its versions. Firstly, ontology or metaphysics is different versions. Sorry. It's different versions. Some versions develop this through ontology. So, how the different versions of this are firstly our ontology or metaphysics, some through theology associated with the most denominations of the Abraham religions, and intersubjective and communitarian nature of human life. These versions we can take, which is a very most important. And what is a king's own versions? The structure of moral meaningfulness, the first step and the first philosophy. That and all are seeking a validation from ethically strong comprehension of personhood as the heart of the life of humankind. So that's all for this passage. Let's moving toward the next one. Though personalism continued to be a field of robust philosophical research in American academic philosophy after the Second World War, it faded under the hegemony of analytics philosophy. But in King's hand, it became forceful as a practice for justice and other moral ends. Its resources have not been exhausted. Careful revision and updating can make it a source of illumination and hope in the circumstances we face a half century after King. Firstly, we will look over the difficult words. So the first word here is a robust. What is the meaning of robust? So it means a strong and unlikely to break or fail. And the another next word we can take is hegemony. What is the meaning of hegemony? It means, especially for the countries, the position of being at the strongest and the most powerful and therefore able to control the others. And any word we can take? No. So let's try to understand what this passage is trying to say. Though the personalism continued to be a field of robust philosophical research, which is unbreakable philosophical research, in American academic philosophy after the Second World War, it faded under the hegemony of analytical philosophy. So here what author is trying to say that before the World War, the personalism is considered as a robust philosophical research which is unbreakable and unfailing. And but after the World War II, it is faded under the hegemony of analytical philosophy. But in King's hand, it became a forceful as a practice for justice and other moral ends. But comes into power again. It's come into power again when in King's hand, when where it's become a forceful as a practice for justice and other moral ends. So here again it comes in a limelight where the king forcefully use it for the practice of justice and other moral ends. Its resources have not been exhausted. It has an abundance of resources. Careful revision and updating can make it a source of illuminations and hope in the circumstances we face a half century after the king. So here author says that the resource of personalism is abundance. It don't have any limits. But by carefully revising and updating it, we still can create a hope even after the even after half century after the king's death. So, what is suitable title to give into this species? A personalism after the Second World War. What is the position and what is the value of the personalism after the Second World War? Especially what in King's Hand it's become. Firstly, before it is a robust philosophical research, and after it's become hegemony of analytical philosophy. But in King's Hand, it's become a forceful as a practice for justice and other moral ends. It has an abundance of resources which we can take, and after careful revision and updating, the source we still make it a source for illumination and hope in the circumstances we face after the second century. But then we can take all the lines important from this small pieces. So let's moving toward the next pieces. Why should we update personalism? And what useful purpose will this serve? Our ideas about the nature of human beings are today undergoing a severe change by the new philosophies of transhumanism. Through personalism, we can understand and appreciate our purpose and obligations, as well as the danger posed by transhumanism. So here author is saying why we need to update personalism. So he is suggesting that in his idea, or the nature of human being are today undergoing a severe changes by the new philosophy of transhumanism. So, firstly, what is transhumanism? So let's know what is a transhumanism, which this author is keep on using in this passage. So transhumanism means the theory that science and technology can help human being develop beyond what is physically and mentally possible at the present time. So author is saying that our ideas about the nature of human being are today undergoing a severe challenge by the new philosophy of transhumanism. Because of the new philosophy of transhumanism, our condition is quite challenging. But through personalism, we can understand and appreciate our purpose and obligations as well as the dangers poses by the transhumanism. So, to surviving in this challenging situations, personalism can help us to understand and appreciate our purpose and obligations. Even it help us how to deal with this transhumanism. So let's see who even this passage is also the continuation of that one. So let's see what is the best known of this transhumanist philosophy is effective altruism, EA. The Center of Effective Altruism was founded at the University of Oxford in year 2012 by Toby Ott and William Maxwell. Largely inspired by the Peter Singer's utilitarianism, EA has been an influential movement of our time as Macaskill defined it in Doing Good Better in year 2015. But let's separate both EA and why we need personalism to upgrade. So firstly, separate the species. Let's firstly focus on the species. Why should we update personalisms? So I think this is the best suitable title itself given here. Why should we need upgradation of personalism and what useful purpose will this serve? And what important we can take from here is this line is more important. To understand and appreciate our purpose and obligations, as well as the danger posed by the transhumanism. Now moving toward the basis, which is this one, which I earlier mentioned or explained. The best known of these transhumanist philosophies, effective altruism, EA. The Center of Effective Altruism was founded at the University of Oxford in the year 2012 by the Toby Orts and the William McCaskill, largely inspired by the Peter Singer's utilitarianism. EA has been an influential movement of our time, as McCaskill's define it is doing good better, the year 2015. Effective altruism is about asking, how can I make the biggest difference I can? And using evidence and careful reasoning to try to find an answer. It takes a scientific approach to doing good. So, what is? This is not as clear cut as it might seem, and it has often led to the uncomfortable conclusion that the accumulation of capital by the wealthy is morally necessary in order to affect the world for the better in the future. Largely, regardless of the consequences for living persons, its proponents argue that society does not sufficiently plan for the distant future and fail to store up the wealth that our successor will need to solve social and existential challenges. So, what this firstly, we just look over the difficult words, the whole passage. The first is altruism. What it's mean? So, altruism means the attitude of caring about others and doing acts that help them, although you do not get anything by doing those acts. It means selflessly helping others, in simple words. And the another word, difficult word here is accumulation. What is the meaning of accumulation? It means an amount of something that has been collected. Another one is the proponent. What is the meaning of proponents? It means a person who speaks publicly in support of a particular idea or a plan of action. So let's understand this whole passage. So it's talking about the best known of these transhumanist philosophies, effective altruism. Effective altruism, which is EA. The Center of Effective Altruism has founded at the University of Oxford in the year 2012 by the Toby Ott and the William Maxwell, largely inspired by the Peter Singer's utilitarianism. So, the effective altruism means, which means altruism means how to you help others selflessly and effectively. That it means, and its birth was in year 2012 at Oxford University by Toby Ott and the William Maxwell, who are inspired by the Peter Singer's utilitarianism. EA has been an influential movement of our time as McCaskill defined it by doing good better. So how McCaskill defined how it's very influential movement to us. So here is his descriptions by his book Doing Good Better, which is written at the year 2015. The effective altruism is about asking, how can I make the biggest difference I can? And using evidence and careful reasoning to try to find an answer. It takes a scientific approach to doing good. So it started with, how can I make a difference? Biggest difference. So here, McCaskill explain it, how we can do it, how effective altruism works. So it says, it is not a clear cut as it seems to be. The approach is not as clear cut as it seems to be. And it is not as clear as it might seems to be. And it has often led to the uncomfortable conclusion that the accumulation of capital by the wealthy is morally necessary in order to affect the world for the better in the future, largely regardless of the consequences for living persons. So he says, why? How can we make the difference? And here author is giving the scientific approach of doing good. So here it said that it is not a clear cut approach, or means the conclusion is not a clear cut, it is an uncomfortable conclusion. And why it is uncomfortable? Because the accumulation of capital by the wealthy is morally necessary in order to affect the world for the better in the future, largely regardless of the consequences for the living persons. So here his author is saying that it is very important that there should be a wealthy people in society. We are not, the money is not equally, the money is not equally available to all the people in a society. And why he's saying that, why he said that there should be somebody who is wealthier. Why? Because of the better future. And why he says that it's a better future? Because if everybody had a equal amount of money, everyone just thinking about their own self and their family. Nobody is thinking about the world. And why is that? Why the wealthiers are the only person thinking about the world? Because they know how to. The wealthiers, their main motto is how to get more wealthier, and by that, the businessmen can do that very effectively. Just looking for the new ideas, how to make a profit from it, how to create a business from it. You can't. Not everyone is a businessman or businesswoman in this world. That's why now, because everybody's brains works differently. So just it's very important where what's your motive. If your motive is to earning money, you just find out the different ideas, different way. You just invest your money to make it double, triples, and all. If you don't have that motive or hunger, then you just live a simple life just to get whatever, just you fulfill your basic needs, the money. You will live in that happily. You can't do any effort to just make how to work better. But just a few group of people can do that. That's why author mentioned that. Its proponents argue that the society does not sufficiently plan for the distant future and fail to store up the wealth that our successor will need to solve the social and existential challenges. So this is what it's trying to say. If everyone have an equal amount of money, nobody is thinking about the future and their successors. The only wealthier people can, because they don't want to become wealthy. Only they want their children, their grandchildren, everyone live that lavish life, and for that they need to just think outstandingly out of the box. So what the suitable title should be for this challenge, according to me, it should be a birth of effective altruism. And what is effective altruism? Both. Let's see what we can take from this passage. The first is, how can I make the biggest difference I can? Another one is uncomfortable conclusion that the accumulation of capital by the wealthy is morally necessary in order to affect the world for the better in the future. Another one is, the society does not sufficiently plan for the distant future and fail to store up the wealth that our successor will need to solve social and existential challenges. So that's all for that passage. It's moving toward the next one. Other transhumanist theories include long termism, the idea that we have a moral obligation to provide for the flourishing of successor bioforms and the machinic entities in the very distant future, at the times, regardless of consequences for those now living and their proximate next generation. There is also a kind of transalism that justifies the moral calculation on which provision for the future instead of for the living is based. Cosmism, the vision for exploration and colonizations of other worlds, and transhumanism, which aspires to assemble technologies for the evolution of humankind into the successor species or for our replacement by their other entities as an inevitable and thereby moral duty. All of these, including the various versions, are sometimes named by the anachronism TESREEL, which means a transhumanism, extropianism, singularitarianism, cosmisms, rationalisms, fictive altruisms, and the long termism. Here I refer to this as transhumanism. So, firstly, start with the difficult words. I don't think so. There is any difficult word left. I think I explained every words earlier, which is difficult here. The one is inevitable. What it means? So it means a certain to happen and unable to be avoided or prevented. And the another one is anachronism. What does it mean? It means the full form of this word. What is the full form? So let's read, understand what this passage is trying to say. Other transhumanist theories include long termism, the idea that we have a moral obligation to provide for the flourishing of successor bioforms and machinic entities in the very distant future, at the times, regardless of consequences for those now living and their proximate next generations. Next generations. So here author is saying that there is other theories of transhumanism. The first one is long-termism, which means the idea that we have a moral obligation to provide for the flourishing of the successor bioforms and machinic entities in very distant future at the time regardless of the consequences for those now living and their proximate new generations. So it is about talking about the long-termism. Whatever we are doing, we should think about in the long term how it helps our successor, future successors, and how it helps their future successor. And we need to take action according to them, according to the long term vision. And there is also kind of rationalism that justify the moral calculation on which the provision for the future instead for the living is based. And it's about the moral calculation, how morally it is beneficial for the future generations. The rationalism, which means here how we can take any action or any decision because based on the moral values of for the future generations. And the other one is cosmism, the vision for exploration and the colonizations of the other worlds. The cosmologism is how we can explore the other worlds, just like we have launched Chandrayaan, the Mars, everything. That's also contains this. And the last one is transhumanism, which aspires to assemble technology for the evolution of the humankind into the successor species or for our replacement of other entities and inevitable and thereby moral duty. It's how technology helps human beings. I just told you earlier, explain the meaning of the transhumanism, which means how technologies and human beings, how technologies helps human beings to do the work beyond physically and morally and mentally different. So this is about how evolution of technology for the welfare of the people. And all of these include the various versions are sometimes named by the anachronisms tescrial, we can say that, which means the full form of this. And here it's refer of these are the transhumanism. So it is very clear the species is telling us the different transhumanism. So the title of this whole passage is the different transhumanism. And what we can take from here, the firstly, the word long termism, which means the idea that we have a moral obligation to provide for flourishing of successor bioforms and the machinic entities in very distant future. And the another one is rationalisms, the moral calculation on the which the provision for the future instead of for the living is based. Another is cosmism, which means the vision for exploration and the colonization of other worlds. And the last one is the transhumanisms, which aspire to assemble the technology for the evolutions of humankind into the successor species or for our replacement by the other entities as an inevitable and thereby the moral duties. And all these are transhumanism. So let's moving toward the last species. The core argument common to these lines of thinking, according to the philosophers Emil Torres writing in year 2021, is that when one takes the cosmic view, it becomes clear that our civilizations could persist for an incredibly long time and there could come to be an unfathomably large number of people in the future. Long-termism thus reason that the far future could contain a very more value than exists today or has existed so far in human history, which stretches back some 3 lakh years. From this point of view, human sufferings today matter a little by the numbers. Nuclear wars, environmental collapse, injustice, and oppressions tyranny, tyranny and the oppression by the intelligent technology are mere ripples on the surface of the oceans of history. Firstly, let's know the meaning of some difficult words. Here is one, which is a tyranny, which means a government by a ruler or a small group of people who have unlimited power over the people in their country or state and use it unfairly and cruelly. So let's this what this species is trying to say. The core argument common to these lines of thinking, according to the philosopher Emily Torres writing in 2021, is that when one take the cosmic view, it's become clear that our civilization could persist from an incredibly long time and there could become to be an unfathomably large number of people in the future. It says that our we existing so long. Our existing is incredibly very long, but our future is much larger as well. Long termism thus reason that the far future could contain a way more value than existing today's and has existing so far in human history, which stretches back some 3 lakh years. So longetism is that our future holds abundance, we can say, and there is more human history. Even it is more than our history. So lifelong of Earth is still more. And from this point of view, human suffering today matters little by the numbers. Nuclear wars, environmental collapse, injustice, operations, tyranny, operations by intelligence technology mirror ripple on the surface of the oceans of the history. So this whole sentence is saying that at today's problem is just a little by the numbers. Our history has our history had many challenges than what we are facing today. It's an ocean of the challenges. So we are not suffering that much than than our ancestors. So what passage is given to this whole is the argument of philosopher Emile Torres, the best suitable passage. And let's take what we can take from here. The most important line is the longatism is the reason that the far future could contain a way more value than existing today. And the last is human sufferings today mattered a little bit by the numbers, as are a mere ripple on the surface of the history, mere the ripple on the surface of the ocean of the histories. So that's all for today. Hope you guys understand it and enjoy it. See you with the next part.